So if you want to take your photos from this to this, or the cinematic blur in your video from this to this, we're going to talk through the GoPro Hero 9 filters, the Polar Pro and the Freewell, to compare them across 5 categories to see which one comes out on top to help you with your purchase. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. We're all about creativity and filmmaking, so if that's something that you're into, consider subscribing. To put it simply, one of the main features is to simply filter out light so that you don't get super blown out highlights in your images. Now again, from the intro, you can see this one was shot without an ND and this one was shot with an ND, and notice how our highlights are not blown out, and we also have detail in the shadows. And because they filter out light when you're shooting video, you can maintain the 180 rule by dropping your shutter speed way down. But when I say way down, obviously to match your frame rate, which you should be shooting your shutter speed at double your frame rate to match the 180 rule. And then once you have that all beautifully matched up, you go from a shot with background blur like this, which looks all right, a little bit stuttery, to this, which looks beautifully smooth. And to be honest with you, I'm actually super pleased with how this turned out. I think this looks so clean and so smooth, while the face is still in pretty good detail. So test number 1 is the look, and if you're going covert, the Freewell filters are for you with their all black sleek color. Now if you want to show off a little bit of style, you can throw in some gold with the Polar Pros. So for me, Polar Pro wins this one because I really like the very simplistic contrast between the gray black of the GoPro and the gold of the filters. Test number 2, what's in the box? The Freewell comes with an ND 8, 16 and 32, but it also comes with a polarizer to help you manage those reflections and darken the skies a little bit so they're not blown out like they can be. So in this image, you can see the reflection of the sky in the water, but if we add the polarizer, you can see the reflection is dulled down a lot. And then if we rotate the polarizer from off to an on position, then you can see the gradual decrease in the reflection in the water and how the skies themselves darken. As for the Polar Pros, you get the ND 8, 16 and 32, but unfortunately no polarizer. So for this one, Freewell takes the point. Now moving on to test number 3, do the filters keep the image looking as sharp as if you weren't to use a filter? Now this is always a hard test with cameras that keep everything in focus, unlike when you're shooting on a DSLR or a mirrorless where you can change the aperture and the depth of field to get that different amount of focus. So comparing the no filter to the Freewell shot, I don't really see any loss of quality here. And then again with the Polar Pro, you're looking at no filter and the Polar Pro filter. I don't really see any difference in the quality there. So here I'd say that both brands keep the image looking sharp, so we'll give them a point each. Test number 4 is a very common thing to consider when you're looking at filters, and that's a color cast across the filters. Now having previously tested the Polar Pro PM VNDs, I found that there was a slight yellow cast across the shot, and then I compared them to the Freewell ND, VND, and I found there was a slightly blue, colder tinge to the shot. Now strangely, I noticed the exact opposite in these filters. So the Polar Pro had a slightly bluer, slightly colder tinge, and the Freewell had a slightly warmer, slightly more yellow tinge. But really, I'm just being nitpicky here. It's not really enough that it's going to change the look of your shot. And you can always adjust this in post by adjusting the temperature. When I say adjust, I literally mean tweaking, like the tiniest bit. Or you could just, well, I did find that altering the temperature in camera was too much of a difference, so maybe just consider it in post. Now, like I said, a cast in a filter is a pretty normal thing unless you're spending thousands on filters, so to me, they both get a point for not too much of a cast. Now the final test to bring this all together may be, again, a little bit nitpicky, but here we go. Now the Polar Pros fit perfectly in their box. However, consider that because of the way that these mounts mount, you have to remove the filter itself, so it's a twist and remove. But now you have the original GoPro filter, and typically you'd think, you know what, I'll just put that in the box in place of the filter that I'm now about to remove and put on. You gotta push pretty hard to get it in place because, I mean, this is a good and a bad thing, but because the Polar Pro filters fit so well inside their box, there's no moving around, it does mean that they don't accommodate the original GoPro filter itself. But with a bit of a hard push, a bit of a tight squeeze, you can get it to fit. Now, surely that cannot be your reason for picking one or the other. So I think the reason for your choosing here is whether you want an additional polarizer filter or you want that nice little gold contrast. So the choice is yours. Go for gold or an additional filter. Now, I will say that the new 20 megapixel camera on the HERO9 and being able to shoot raw images may actually force you or push you to want to shoot more images with a GoPro, which previously I would never have done before. So now that these filters have come in, and I'll always be sticking this in my bag anyway, we'll see how the quality of those images come out when we post them up to Instagram. That's it. That's the prompt for you guys to follow the Instagram, see what's going on over there. As for the next video on the GoPro, I'll be going through the settings I use to change this quickly between being a vlogging camera for shooting cinematics and for shooting photos, and how I set up the presets in here to do that quickly. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and please like, comment, share, subscribe, do what you gotta do, and I will see you guys in the next one. Great, now I have the hard decision of trying to work out which ones I want to be using.